What's going on, YouTube? This is BoxingWave. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at BoxingWave10. Also hit that bell notification as well so you'll be alerted whenever I drop new content. So I saw the press conference the other day with Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. Now, before I get started, I just want to give you my stance on this whole fight. If you haven't seen it, if it's your first time here, my stance on this fight is I wanted Fury and Joshua. Why? Because it would have been undisputed. That's all I've wanted throughout this whole roller coaster ride, is to see an undisputed heavyweight champion. You know, we've seen it in other divisions. We've seen it recently with Josh Taylor and Jose Ramirez. But I want to see an undisputed heavyweight champion. All right, I've been wanting to see it for a long time. We didn't get it. We didn't get it with the Klitschko brothers in their reign because they wouldn't fight each other. You know, I'm not trying to give you a history lesson, but I just want an undisputed champion. You know, yeah, I have my, fights that I prefer. I've said before that Joshua against Wilder is still my number one fight. I wanted to see this fight because of the build up that we got years ago. It started really building up when Joshua beat Klitschko. That's when it really, people started really talking about it at that time. All right, so I've been wanting this. You guys been here. If you've been here, you know my channel. You know I've been doing videos on this stuff for years. All right, breakdowns, fight after fight. I've been wanting that fight for years. When it comes to this trilogy, though, I wasn't excited for Fury and Joshua because I just didn't think it would happen. All right. I knew they were going through arbitration. And once I heard the ruling that Wilder won the arbitration, that they were going to fight, him and Fury's going to fight for a third time, I was disappointed, but I wasn't surprised. I didn't do any content on Fury and Joshua because I just didn't believe it would happen. Like I said, I was disappointed, but I know how business works, and I know these guys had signed the contract to fight 2 fights. Okay, this was a 2-fight deal. All right, Fury already had passed on Wilder before. He did his ESPN deal. They was going to do a rematch right after the first fight. All right, but Fury went off and signed off with ESPN, had a couple of fights with them to build himself up, and Wilder went his way for Dominic Brazil, and he fought Luis Ortiz for a second time. All right, so my stance has been listen, I wanted that fight, but if we're gonna get this third fight, at least we're getting closure, right? Because the first fight was a draw. I'm not talking about what you think and what actually happened. It was ruled. It was scored a draw. Right, and the second fight, we got the stoppage of Deontay Wilder by Mark Breland throwing in the towel. All right, so now we're here at the third fight, and the press conference that was the other day. I saw it. I thought it was corny that Wilder didn't speak, but I wasn't really thinking about it too much. I wasn't gonna make a video about the press conference. Some people made videos on it, did videos, live coverage of it. I wasn't doing all that, because when it comes to this fight, I just wanted to do a fight. I was planning on doing a breakdown because I have been watching, and I'm still going to do that. I have been watching, Wilder's training videos. And see, the thing is, the thing is with this channel, I do so much boxing, breakdowns. And I've done videos already discussing on what I think Wilder could do to be better in this third fight, because I thought we were going to get the third fight last year, but then we had the pandemic. But I still was able to make videos discussing on what he should do in a third fight, or who he should face if he isn't going to fight Tyson Fury, to prepare for Fury for a third fight, right? So I've done videos on this stuff, and I've done videos even after the first fight, then videos leading up to the first fight. All right, if you don't know, I thought Wilder was going to win both fights. I was wrong both times. All right, I picked Wilder to win the first time because I just thought it was too soon for Fury to get back and go straight to Wilder. I know he had 2 preparation fights, but I thought it was just too soon. He didn't look good. He looked heavy. He looked sloppy, and he didn't look like the Fury that I knew that beat Klitschko, that beat Chisora in the rematch. He didn't look like that guy to me. So I said Wilder's gonna win this. You know, Wilder had beaten Ortiz, and I was more of a believer of his boxing ability in general. All right. So in that first fight, I picked Wilder. In the second fight, I went with Wilder again. You know why? Because out of the two, I just was more impressed with Wilder in his 2 fights that he had with Brazil and Ortiz in a rematch than I was with Fury and Schwartz and the other brother name. I forgot his name. The one that cut his eye. I can't think of his name right now. I apologize about that. But I was more impressed with what Wilder did. And, you know, we know styles make fights and everything. And I know Tom Schwartz, you know, I don't want to go deep into it because I don't want to draw out this video any longer because I'm going to say a lot in this video. All right. But anyway, second fight, just because of the way that the first fight ended with Wilder getting that almost knockout, all right, almost stopping Fury, dropping him earlier in the fight as well. I thought Fury won as far as boxing rounds. I thought Fury definitely outboxed him for sure, clearly. But Wilder, with his volume, his aggression, and getting those 2 knockdowns made it debatable. All right, I think Fury won the fight, the boxing match, but it made it debatable. Those 2 knockdowns definitely made it debatable. All right, I've seen the fight several times since then, and you know, if you think I think Fury won on points, but I don't think it's as wide as I thought when I originally saw it. All right, so anyway, now we're here for a third fight, and I want closure. I want closure not because of the second fight, but because of all the allegations that were made, all the excuses that were made, all these things that these fans have made videos on about, you know, what Fury had in his gloves, the second fight, the Mark Breland water, you know, all of these things, a dent in his head, glove gate from the first fight with the flimsy glove. I want closure with all this. I'm tired of listening to what people feel about this. I want to see how this ends, how this story ends, all right? Is Wilder going to redeem himself, or is Fury going to just destroy him and end this, all right? I don't know, but I guess with me, even though it's not the fight that I wanted to see, it's a fight that we're getting, all right? And I'm really not surprised that we're getting it for a third time. Now, the press conference. Before I get started, because I know a lot of this stuff that I'm about to say is going to really hurt y'all feelings. Because the last time I made a video like this, it hurt y'all feelings. And it usually hurts y'all feelings because a lot of everything is about y'all feelings. All right? A lot of y'all don't really watch boxing like that. I've been here since 2013. I've made videos about Wilder, and I was watching Wilder way before that. So I've been around here for a long time. All right? I've seen Wilder as he advanced throughout his career. You know, I've been watching Wilder since he had at least maybe about 20 fights on his record, all right? So I've been watching this guy for a long time, and I've seen the changes in him, all right, on both inside and outside of the ring. So I feel like I can address a lot of things that I'm saying, but I'm going to tell you right now, 80% of what I'm about to say is facts, right? It was said, there's proof of it. It was said out of Deontay Wilder's own mouth. So what I say is not how I feel. 20% of it, it's going to be some of my opinion. But I'm going to base everything I said off what he said. All right? This is my issue with Wilder. It's not really the press conference. I know he didn't say anything in the press conference. But once he started doing interviews after the press conference, he said some things that bothered me, that rubbed me the wrong way. And I'm going to tell you why. First, He does an interview. I see a bunch of videos posted by Ellie Setback. All right. Ellie Setback, ES News. He's been around a long time doing media for boxing, you know. But he's more of a fan. He's not a real journalist. He's more of a fan with a camera. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not trying to disrespect the dude, but he's a fan. There are people that he does interviews with, but he's a big fan of these people. All right. And he'll say whatever he has to say to get the interview. He understands that a lot of these fighters don't want to hear the tough questions. All right. And he approaches these guys and he basically tell them what they want to hear. Okay. Even during the interview, he'll ask questions, but he co-signs whatever the fighter he's giving the interview with. He co-signs whatever they say. Right. So I listened to that. And he said some things that rubbed me the wrong way, but I said, all right, whatever. It's Ellie Setback. You know, Ellie has to say this to get this interview. And then he does an interview with Fred from Barbershop Conversation. And Fred's been around for a long time, right? This is the thing. I understand that Fred and Wilder, just like 78 Sports TV, they have a relationship, right? They're cool. I'm not mad that Wilder does the exclusives with them, right? It promotes him. He promotes who he respects, who he likes. But the thing is, I understand why Wilder didn't speak in a press conference now. Because he's going to only do interviews with people that rock with him, that are his fans, right? And when you do that, there's not going to be anyone that's going to challenge what you say. You could say whatever. No one's going to challenge you. They're just going to give their feedback on it. 78 does it too much. He does give his feedback, you know, but he does ask some good question in between that. He's always done it. I mean, I've been listening to 78 Sports and he's been giving interviews since Keith Thurman. You know, I remember, you know, he would ask some of these tougher questions to certain fighters. But I wouldn't say he would ask the questions that I would ask. You know, but Fred from Barbershop Conversation does an interview with him. And they're in his hotel, and it's long interviews. You know, I listened about maybe 40 minutes of it, right? He does his interview with Fred. And this one key thing that I've heard Wilder say, and I've heard him repeatedly say that, and I'm going to name the expense, because I listen, you know, when, you know, Fred and 78 Sports, regardless of how you feel about them, they have given us interviews where the media, the quote unquote old media, would not be able to get. We wouldn't be able to get this kind of content. So they have given us some good content. But this is the thing. I heard Wilder say several times. I've heard him say it in the interview he did with 78 Sports TV when he first came back out of exile. Because remember, when he lost to Fury, he disappeared for a minute. You know, he wasn't even on social media like that, right? So he gives 78 Sport the exclusive, right? When he first come back, like sometime last year in the fall or something. Does an interview with 78 Sports TV. And then he does these two recent interviews, right? And he did another interview with 78 Sports maybe a few weeks back with Malik Scott, who's training him now, right? And one thing that I keep hearing Wilder say, and plus he tweeted this, Wilder keeps stressing the fact that he gave Tyson Fury the opportunity. All right, he even went on his Twitter. All right, gotta bring this tweet up. He said on October 31st, on Halloween of 2020, right? This is on his actual Bronze Bomber Twitter. He says, one tweet, in the rematch agreement, there was a rematch clause. Now it's time for you to be a man of honor, a man that honor your word. Instead of trying to weasel out of the agreement, scared people run, but scary man will break his contract, you coward ass bitch. Bomb Squad. till this day, hashtag. And in the very next tweet, he said, when that fight was a draw, I told you that I would give you a rematch. You know I was offered more money to fight Anthony Joshua than I was getting to fight you. And again, being a man of my word, I fought you like I said I would. Now, I've heard a lot of videos about this topic. I've heard other YouTubers. I've read comments. You know, and some guys have done great jobs. So to all the channels out there, I mean, some of them are the older. I mean, some of these guys have been around since day one. Salute to guys like Boxing Beats and Rhymes, Blood Boxing. Even heard Zone 6. I was listening to a little bit of him. D-Style Boxing. All the guys that's been here when I was here and from before I was here. I hear a lot of guys make, and listen, you guys make great videos. You know, a lot of people make great videos on this. Even some of the newer channels. If I were interviewing Wilder, what I would ask Wilder, and if you're a real Wilder fan, like, answer this question for me. If you're so pro-black, right? If you're so pro-black, and if you feel that race played a big part of these fights, Tyson Fury and his white privilege, this is coming out of your mouth, not mine. If you constantly feel that you've been cheated against, that there's race going on, there's white privilege going on, all right, this guy is a con man, all right, all of this stuff about race and him being white. Let's look at what you said. And what? These are all facts. These are not my opinion yet. We got to get to that. You said you gave him an opportunity. I heard you say on 78 Sports TV that you basically treated him like a brother. Y'all didn't have no tension in that first fight. Y'all sat on a couch together and talked and did an interview on a couch. Fight is a fight. Mutual respect was there. Then y'all go into the second fight. There were some issues because Fury went and turned down the rematch so he could do that ESPN deal. So y'all didn't do the immediate rematch. Right? But you eventually signed a 2-fight deal with Fury, giving him another opportunity, like you said, right? Being a man of your word, yada, yada, yada. Cool. But going into that second fight, you talk nothing about anything else but race. You was talking about how Fury was not even from America, but as a white man and his privilege, he was getting loved in America. More love than you were. His story, his mental illness. You was talking about a guy that had glove issues in the past. A lot of your fans too, bringing up the older fight that he had some issues with his gloves, right? Yeah, brought that up. How he was on coke. Right? He went and retired. One, beat Klitschko, disappeared. It didn't even defend his titles. This guy said he was going to give his purse to charities. I don't know if it's his first or second fight. But they were treating him like a hero. And you, out of your own words, not mine, was saying because it was white privilege. Then you was telling us what you were going to do in that second fight. It was Black History Month. You was selling the shit out of that fight. Being pro-black. Then you got all these new followers, guys that hasn't been here since day one. They saw the till this day rant. They saw what you said against Radio Raheem. It looked powerful. It was a meme. It went, everybody saw it. People became fans of you immediately. Don't know your history at all. They don't know where you were doing all these years. Sold the shit out of it. Being pro-black. Gave him the opportunity. Then he beats you. And tries to fight try to go on without fighting you. Fury and Bob said the contract was expired. Said the arbitration was a joke. These guys were trying to set a deal with AJ without having to fight you a third time. They wasn't even going to deal with you. Say you were done out here. And you tweeted that. Yet, you did all of that for a man that was white. You did all of that for a man that was white. You saying it's white privilege, but you gave him the privilege. You calling all these other fighters coons, right? But you gave Fury the opportunity. You even said in your own Twitter that you were getting paid more to fight Anthony Joshua, and you were a man of your word and gave him another opportunity. Let's talk about AJ. I know AJ offered you your highest purse years ago after the Klitschko fight, right? I know he offered you around maybe 12 million. You guys turned that down, even though it was like many more times more than what you ever been paid, right? You turned that down. Cool. That's cool, because the money is worth much more now. It's been worth much more than that the last 2 or 3 years now. Then you guys went and threw out a 50 million thing. Hell, agree on it by tonight. 50 million. We'll pay you, AJ, 50 million. What's up? AJ Hearn turned that down. All right? But then these dudes came back and offered you 100 million, over 100 million. I think it's 120 to fight Brazil, who you were going to fight, and AJ 2 times. Now, let's bring up the strongest point here. There was a point in the heavyweight division where the 2 champions were 2 black men. When you turn down those deals, not even say deals, let's just stick to the $100 million one, because that's still in the same ballpark of what you would get paid, right? Which is much more than what you got paid against Fury, right? You said it yourself. There were 2 black champions. Wilder had the WBC. Joshua had the IBF, the WBO, and the WBA. Fury didn't have shit. Fury was just getting back in the game. But you gave him an opportunity. And when you had your draw, you were still a champion. AJ was still a champion. He didn't lose to Ruiz left yet. He was a black man. On top of that, you're Nigerian. He's Nigerian. Shit, I'm Nigerian. You get undisputed for beating him. If you lose, like you did to Fury, a black king would have been champion. Since y'all like to use those terms so much, right? And I say y'all because y'all means the fake pro-black people. Not the real ones. Because the real ones would have kept it black. They wouldn't have been trashing the other black champion. And giving opportunities to Tyson Fury, who was a coke addict, who didn't have a belt, who was a con artist, failed drug tests before, had glove situations before. You gave the con man the opportunity, the white privileged guy, but you didn't give the opportunity to the black man that had 3 titles, was going to pay you more, and didn't have any scandals. He's never tested dirty. He didn't have any glove situation. But you gave Fury the opportunity. These are not my words. These are your actions. He says he's less talk, all action. Well, your action is telling us the white privilege that Fury have, you gave it to him instead of giving it to AJ. The black guy. Why none of your people's bringing that up? Why is no one bringing that up? Glovegate? That would have never happened with AJ. Horseshoes or whatever this dude had in his gloves in a rematch. He went from pillow fisted to knocking you out. He must have been cheating. He put a dent in your head. You were bleeding out of your ear. This guy totally conned you. Y'all calling Sugar Hill a con, a coon. Y'all calling leaving threats. Y'all sitting here, Mark Breland, trashing Mark Breland. Mark Breland? Fire him, but didn't fire the coach that actually was there when the gloves were being put on Tyson Fury. White coach on top of that. For you pro-black dudes, you fake pro-black dudes out there. Like, I'm trying to get some understanding here. Why did you go so hard with giving Fury an opportunity when you had the opportunity to fight AJ, another black Nigerian fighter? And I've been knew you were Nigerian too. But that's a different story. It's not really about that. It's the fact that you're using the race angle to get over here. And I see it. And many of us see it. But somebody actually needed to say it. Now you're talking about Jermell Charlo. That's what really made me want to do this video too. I'm not going to lie. Because I seen him talking about Jermell Charlo should be slapped. Well, Jermell Charlo made a comment on your interview basically saying race don't matter. Now, I didn't hear Jermell Charlo do an interview talking about race or anything like that. He didn't really elaborate anything. He could elaborate on it. That's up to him. But what I do know, these are the facts. Because we still keeping it on facts right now. What we do know is Charlo went to your video and said race don't matter. Now, as far as I'm concerned, the Charlo twins, when it came to this Fury Wilder fight, they're not with the glove game. I don't think neither one of them are. I might be confusing one with the other, but from what I've heard, they're not with the whole glove gate situation. So when Charlo left that comment on your video, I don't think he's talking about in general. He's talking to you, the guy that's using race as a reason of you losing. Now, as far as I'm concerned, you made it about race. You made it about religion. You brought up him being a gypsy and all that stuff. You brought that up before the fight. And you're bringing it up after the fight. But as far as I'm concerned, when you're in that ring, race is not a factor. When you're in the ring, you can talk about as much as you want leading up to the fight. You could talk about as much as you ending the fight, after the fight. But when that bell rings, race don't matter. When you in when you are in the ring, that's it. All of that does not matter. Your costume, all of this stuff, Black History Month, none of that shit matter when you in the ring. So when he said race don't matter, I'm thinking he's talking about that. Because that's what you're using to promote your fight. That's what I'm thinking. Now, if I'm wrong, then that's something that Charlo needs to explain. Because race does matter. Race shouldn't matter, but race does matter. Yeah, race does matter in a lot of things. It does. It shouldn't, but it does. It is what it is. But in this situation, when you went in that ring, race didn't matter. It was about who wins the fight. That's it. You made it about race, not Tyson Fury. You did. And you keep making it about race. And you keep talking about white privilege. You gave him the privilege. You gave him the privilege. Not anybody else. You gave Tyson Fury the privilege. If you didn't give Tyson Fury the opportunity to become popular in America, he wouldn't be. Instead, AJ, if he had beaten you, would have gotten that popularity. Or maybe he wouldn't have. I have no idea. But all I know is that you gave a guy that literally had nothing. He brought nothing to his fight. He's going to talk about being lineal. Nobody cares about that shit. He didn't hold a title. He brought nothing to the fight. You brought everything. And you chose to give it to him. That's your decision. Now, your flunkies might not tell you that, but that's what happened. Your street team, your fanboys, they might not tell you that, but that's what happened. You dropped the ball, Mr. Black King. You know what? I'm getting tired. Charlo is about to have an undisputed fight. Out of all these guys at 154, a few of them moved up. Andre moved up. His brother moved up. By all of these guys, between him, J-Rock, Hurd, all these guys, he's the last man standing. And you are choosing to bash him. Talking about he should be slapped. And then you got all your flunkies sitting there talking about they're going to fall back and they're not going to support him. He put in work. He put in more work than you. He had to switch up his whole style to become great. What did you do? Fight your boy that took a dive? That's the opinion part. Let's bring that up. Malik Scott's training you now. I like the videos. I can't wait to do a breakdown. I like the videos. I see that you're working on. I don't know if it's going to be enough. But I like the videos. But I remember doing a prediction video on Wilder and Malik Scott. I was here, not you till this day flunkies that just showed up the other day. I'm talking about from 2013, 2014, when he was fighting Malik Scott, and Malik Scott was his step-up fight. I did a prediction. Those videos are still up. We did a prediction video. We were here. We were here back then, watching Wilder as he grew and progressed through his career. We were still here. Some of you remember, video is still up. Malik Scott at that time, I think he only had like one loss or something like that. I don't know. But we knew that Malik Scott, we knew y'all were cool. What we didn't know was that on Wilder's step-up fight, Malik Scott was going to take a dive. We didn't know y'all was cool. Now, I thought it was a dive from day one. I thought it was. But I wasn't sure, you know? But when I found out y'all was cool, I mean like this, I said, oh, yeah, they planned this shit out. Like, you wasn't trying to get better. That's why we kept getting all these stupid fights like rematches with Stavern. They were cruising you through. They was protecting you. They was keeping you safe. They was keeping you safe. Because when you were like 25-0, 22-0, 23-0, when Klitschko's, both Klitschko's were still boxing actively champions. You could have fought them back then. Because AJ fought them when he was fought one of them, when he was like 18-0. He was fighting champions in the teens. Who'd you fight on your 25th fight? When Joshua was just, what is Joshua now? 25-0? He's like 25-0, 26-0. Who did you fight when you were 26-0? With 26 knockouts? Oh, he has one loss. I'm sorry. Joshua has one loss. But yeah, who did you fight? They were trying to take you easy. And you know what? That's cool. That's cool because you're trying to develop. Some fighters got better amateur experience than you, and you're trying to develop. I'm not going at you like that. But what I'm trying to say is, you, at some point, Deontay Wilder changed everything. Started making it seem like people were ducking him. And that's not true. Lying on people. Making it about race. If you pro-black, you should have wanted him to fight Joshua. If you're that pro-black, if you're really about it, if you're not just using it as a marketing tool like he is, he's using it as a marketing tool. It's a marketing tool. Because you wouldn't have gone that far to give Tyson Fury the opportunity if you really meant what you said. You're not really about that life. You faking it. You're faking it. Let's be real. And that's what really bothers me with this. Because y'all really about to turn. Y'all did it with Mark Breland. Y'all did it with, you're doing it now with Jamel Charlo. All right? You did it with Andre Ward. When Andre Ward made those comments, y'all slandered him and his family and his parents. Y'all slandered him. Y'all slaughtered him. Y'all said some really disrespectful things to him. Y'all said it with Mayweather because Mayweather wasn't... Mayweather didn't think you were doing well in the fight. Y'all slandered him. Calling these fighters all kind of coons. You know how many people Mayweather influenced, especially black fighters on top of that, influenced to do this? You know how much money he generated for this sport and to keep it going? And you guys were quick to slander him because of Deontay Wilder? The guy that was... Yo. This is crazy. Y'all do it all the time. Terrence Crawford, another one. I mean, he don't got no relation with Wilder, but the same group of people, the same type of people are slandering him. And he's a black fighter. Who's he getting slandered for? He's getting slandered from other fighters because he's trying to go at Spence. And y'all want to make it seem like he's not doing anything. Y'all slander black fighters all the time. But when it comes to Wilder, anybody that has any kind of criticism, y'all sit there and disrespect them. You disrespect their family. You disrespect their legacy. It's sad. It's sad. And you got a guy, a young fighter that is about to be undisputed if he wins his next fight. And you're sitting here talking about boycotting him because he made a comment to Wilder. It's really, really sad. And I'm getting really tired of it, man. Again, I just want to know why. I want to know why did you give Fury all these opportunities. That was the real motivation behind this video, because I heard him say some things in these interviews, and I'm like saying to myself, you know, you went so hard. You've gone so hard for this Fury situation. You really, really had to dig deep for a guy that brought nothing to you. And I know why it was made, and this is me, this is my opinion. There's two opinions I made here. I made an opinion about the whole Malik Scott situation dive, and this is another opinion. My opinion is you took the easy route to fight Fury, and it backfired. Fury was just getting things back on the ball. He had two easier fights, you know, against journeyman. He was trying to get back. He's just trying to get back in the mix, and you made a fight with him, because instead of fighting AJ directly, you didn't have the negotiating power. All right. You didn't have the resume. You know, you had Ortiz, which was a good fight and a great win. But that was the only thing you had there. You didn't have any negotiating power. So you fought Fury. Fury made it. Y'all both did a lot for each other, because it gave you more exposure, and it gave him exposure because everybody saw the fight. You know, even non-boxing fans, people watched it. So it helped you both. But outside of that, Fury didn't have anything like to come into the fight with. You know, he just sold the fight and ended up being a draw. But why did you give him so much? You gave him so much. Why? Because it was an easier route for you. Why did you pass up on Undisputed and a bigger purse with AJ, another black fighter? Why did you do it? Because it was less risky to fight Fury. You were more comfortable with fighting Fury because you had knocked them down twice in the previous fight. So that's why you went back and did a 2-fight deal. Because if you beat Fury, all right, well, you can come in the game with AJ like, yo, let's do 50-50 now. But you got greedy and Fury destroyed you. That's why this is all happening right now, in my opinion. But all that other stuff about the white privilege and all that, you gave him the privilege. You gave him that. That's your fault. All right, should have gave it to AJ. All right. So listen, I'm done with that. I guess the last time I talk about this fight, I know we have a lot of fights coming up this weekend and some canceled, but I do want to do a breakdown of the fight, so I'll do an actual breakdown soon. But we need to address that, because I don't feel like, you know, no disrespect to anybody else out here that's talking about this. You know, I think everybody makes great content talking about this topic of the interviews and stuff. I listened to some, but, you know, once, you know, I was kind of tired of hearing him about giving him opportunities for Tyson Fury. And I'm like, well, is anybody else seeing that he passed up on, you know, the whole white privilege thing is throwing me off here, because I'm like, you gave him the privilege. It doesn't make sense to me. You know, if you guys can try to make sense of it, leave me the comments, you know, let me know. But I don't understand here. You gave him the opportunity. You were the honorable, in your mind, you're the honorable guy. I'm trying to understand, why were you being so honorable to a guy that you think is a con man? You know what I'm saying? That was trying to just get the belt and run from you. AJ, a lot of people don't like him because he's politically correct, I guess. You know, he's very, you know, he's like perfect. He doesn't want to say anything wrong, or I don't know what it is. Maybe because he's Brit and he talks a different way. I guess he's not considered black to a lot of you. You know, even Dillian White. It's like, yo, Dillian White is another guy that you guys slander all the time. And he's another black fighter who has been fighting nothing but good fighters. And he was the mandatory and the number one for years. Didn't give him the opportunity, but you give Tyson Fury the opportunity. He comes out of nowhere, you give him the opportunity. But you call everybody else a coon. And that word should not be used here on YouTube. It just should not. You got everybody. You guys address things that should not be addressed on YouTube, but you're doing it for your own spoiled reasons. You should not be addressing these kind of things in these boxing matches. This is not the place for it. Y'all take away every time y'all use those terms and y'all bring up racism. Y'all taking it away from the real issues, the real racial tension that's going on for your own selfish needs. They're not really being about it. Like I said, Wilder has been using it as a marketing tool, but he's not really about that. Like, I know people, I'm really about that, but I'm not on YouTube just acting like it. I can easily do it. It's easy to do it. You can be that way and just be like, well, anything black I support. You know, it's even getting so bad. You know, I know I'm going into a rant here, but like there's people that are claiming to be black owned businesses, and they're not black owned businesses. They're just marketing it that way and have black employees there in order to get the black dollar. You know, it's just like politicians. Do I have to elaborate how politicians say things to get the black vote? Do I have to address that? You guys know what I'm talking about. So please keep it boxing. Keep it boxing. All right? The best fighter, do the hard work. Stop taking shortcuts. All right? And you'll get, listen, if you're the best, you're the best. If you're not, try the hardest to be the best. Try a little harder. Maybe you'll get there. But taking shortcuts, I've seen that a lot in Wilder's career. I even seen it in Fury's career. That's why I'm not even defending him. I'm not even defending him. I'm just like, yo, Wilder, why did you give this to this guy? But you're blaming him for giving him this opportunity. It doesn't make sense. Should have gave it to AJ. All right, anyway. I think I said everything I needed to say. I know this is a very, 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 very sensitive, video because, people are really get into their feelings on this topic. But I don't think anyone was really being really honest about this thing. And they were saying it, and I don't feel like I was being disrespectful. I just don't think anybody was really saying what needed to be said here in these interviews that were given. But if I were ever to give a guy like him an interview, I wouldn't even give him an interview, man. Like, I swear to God, if I ever met Wilder, just like I met a lot of other boxers, I did not pull out my phone. I did not take any pictures. I did not hit the record button. Even when I ran into the Charlos a couple years back, I didn't even want to do that interview with them. Like, they was having a good time. I was lit. They were lit. We was just like happy to see each other. And then he was like, yo, let's do an interview. Like, I really like to talk to boxers one-on-one without a camera, because I feel like when the camera is there, you're doing it for, people say cap a lot, but it just changes the realness of the conversation. If I were to ever have a conversation with Deontay Wilder, I would ask him these same questions that I just told y'all. Like, I would yo, why did you go that route if you feel all of these things? Do you really feel all of these things that you're saying about him and white privilege and all this stuff? Do you really feel that way? Because if you do, I'm trying to understand why you fought him and you went so hard to fight him when there were other fighters out there like AJ, like Dillian White, that were available and wanted to fight you, and you did not give them the opportunity. So if that's the case, I would want to know that, and I would ask them that without being on camera, because certain things don't need to be said on camera, and I think a lot of y'all need to learn that. All right, anyway, I'm out, man. Make sure y'all subscribe. Peace.